Welcome to the LDS Mental Health Podcast. This is a podcast for faithful women who want healing in their relationships, guidance from God, and internal peace. Each week, you'll hear mental health concepts taught through a spiritual lens from me, a licensed clinical mental health counselor, to help you start thinking in a higher and holier way. A warning to today's episode, we're going to be talking about postpartum depression. We also bring up stories that involve trauma, suicide. If you feel like that's a triggering topic for you, this might not be the episode for you. Also, if you're struggling with postpartum depression or thoughts of suicide, please reach out for support and help. There's a mental health crisis line that you can call 988 in any state in the United States. It is a crisis line that you define the crisis and call and reach out for support. You'll get a therapist 24 hours a day, 7 days a week that you can talk to, and they can connect you with a local resource. I'm so excited to welcome three amazing sisters to the episode. We're doing a special sister connection episode, which means that I'm interviewing three people who have some lived experience in the topic that we're talking about. And this month we're talking about motherhood and mental health. And so I wanted to have on some people who've had lived experience with postpartum depression to share their experiences. So I'm so grateful that each of you are willing and vulnerable to share your stories. And I think it's going to help so many women. I think sharing your stories helps other women not feel so alone and feel some connection. So I appreciate you guys doing that. So let's start off with some introductions. I'd like to welcome Hannah Crosby to the episode. Hannah, do you want to give us a little introduction about who you are, where you're from, maybe a little bit about you?
Yeah. I'm Hannah. I actually grew up in Bountiful, Utah, but I am out here in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Um, it's a crazy story of what brought us out here, but that is for another day. I am a mom of two. I have a son who just turned 7 and my daughter who's about to turn 6. Um, my life is I'm a stay-at-home mom, mostly due to helping my daughter. She is on the autism spectrum, and so we're busy with lots of doctor's appointments and therapy and stuff. So that's my life. But when I have some downtime, I have fun spending time with my husband. I like Dungeons and Dragons, so play some of that, and we'll enjoy a good video game. So
Awesome. Well, welcome, Hannah. Appreciate you coming on. All right, Morgan Miller, welcome to the podcast. Do you want to give a little introduction?
Yes, thank you. My name's Morgan. I'm a mother of three. I have three boys. Their ages are 9, 6, and 5. We live in Roy, but I grew up in Southern Utah. I got my bachelor's degree in social work, and I'm currently just recently been accepted to get my master's. So I am so
Yay!
excited to hear your guys' stories because I've been through it, but I'm also, I'm just really excited. I love the mental health journey, and my goal is to help other women in their journeys as well. I think a lot just because I've been there. I get it. So
That's so awesome. Congratulations. Very
thank
exciting.
you.
Awesome. Did you say you're doing social work? Is that what you're going to do your
Yes.
master's in? Okay.
Mhm.
Awesome. Very cool. Welcome. All right. And we also have Tonalyn Barney. Welcome to the episode. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you, yourself?
Yeah, so of course, my name is Tana Lynn. I grew up in a little town called Geneva, Idaho, which is right by Bear Lake. That's where I grew up. And now I'm currently in Lehi, Utah, being closer to family, which we love. I have a little girl who just turned 1 in January, and our journey was crazy. I was hospitalized with her, and then she's a NICU baby, so she's a preemie, but she is thriving and living. My husband's currently working. I'm in school. I'm actually going in to be a nurse, going into the nursing program and everything, already registered and ready to go, start clinical soon. And I'm actually wanting to take that to labor and delivery. So I'm super excited and excited for that journey. And we just love the outdoors. We're an outdoors kind of family. So super fun.
Awesome. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. All right. So we're going to dive into some questions about postpartum depression. And we're going to start off, Morgan will start off with you. And then I would love to hear from each of you on this too. But Morgan, do you want to tell us a little bit about your postpartum journey and maybe when you realized something just fell off emotionally?
Yes. So as I said, I have three kids. The first kid I had, I didn't really feel a lot of postpartum depression with it. Just the typical little bit of baby blues, which I was very fortunate. Um, I remember though coming home with our second and sitting in my seat in the living room, kind of we had our own spots and we had our swing in the corner. And I had my husband there and my mom there, like family there supporting us as we just got home. And our newborn was in his swing. And I felt this weird, like I was so angry at him
Mm.
for being in our space that this family of us of three had created for the last 2 years. And now there's this other person that's now taking space. And I remember thinking that like in the back of my mind, I was like, I know this isn't irrational. Like that thought is crazy, but I had it. And I remember thinking like, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Um, so that was kind of my first inkling that I might have something going on. I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of memories I don't remember. And I don't know, you can probably tell us, like, is that
Yeah.
something that's like normal when
Yeah.
you're going through trauma? Like you kind of don't remember a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but my husband said it was a rough go. So when we had our third, that's the one I remember more because it was less of like this sad, all the time feeling, have a hard time getting out of bed, didn't want to wash my hair, didn't want to do anything. But this one was more of like a rage feeling. And it was really scary. Like my postpartum with him was, awful thoughts of like hurting myself. Um, the first time in my life, I hate to admit this, I've only told my husband this, the first time in my life though, that I could empathize and understand why moms would take their lives and their kids' lives because I was in such a dark place and didn't want to be here. But I also had that guilt of like, I can't leave my kids here. I can't let them grow up without a mom, so I'll just bring them with me. And so that's
Mm.
when we knew like, I mean, we had taken steps because with our second, we already knew. So like leaving the hospital with our third, I was proactive. Like I talked to the social workers at the hospital. I'm like, hey, I know I need doctors when I leave. I need a psychiatrist. I need a therapist. Like, let's get everything set up. And then COVID hit. And it was like we were on back hold for everything for a month, waiting
Mm.
to get into somebody. So it was just like this daily struggle to just hang on until we could get in to see people. But yeah, it was hard. And I still get those moments of rage with the kids sometimes, even still where a lot of therapy has helped
Yeah.
me with those coping skills to like take a second, figure out where my mind really is and move forward to try to be a better mom. So,
Morgan, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being vulnerable because I think it is really hard to share some of those aspects of postpartum depression for sure, but you're not alone. Like there's so many women who experience that. And I think hearing that can help other women feel comfortable and confident reaching out. Like this is something that isn't a part of it's not who I truly am.
mhm.
And there really is help for this. So I appreciate you being vulnerable and
Yeah.
sharing that aspect of that. Thank you, Morgan. Tonalyn, do you want to share a little bit about your journey and when you kind of noticed something felt off?
Yeah, so my journey started off with at 24 weeks being hospitalized, and I was in the hospital for a little over 60 days. And I feel like that's when postpartum depression started kicking in. I hadn't had my baby yet or anything, but something was off. And so I was seeing a lot my therapist regularly and everything while going through that. But then after my child was born, I just remember something hitting me really hard after my child was born. She was taken away from me. I had maybe 5 minutes with her, maybe less. And she was taken and sent to the NICU right away. And I had to start recovery now. I just had her. It's time to recover. And it was a very lonely night. My husband was with me, of course, and he just did not know how to help me at all. And bless his heart. But I just remember I felt like a piece of me is now completely missing now. I
Mm.
felt that I was lacking something emotionally, and it wasn't like vitamins or anything, but I'm missing something now. And um, as soon as I got better out of the hospital, driving back and forth constantly to see my baby, it was a 45-minute drive there and back home to see my baby. So it was a lot of hours and driving and everything. And I just remember telling myself, I'm not okay. I don't know. I'm angry. I'm mad. I'm then sad. I'm feeling all these emotions and I wasn't acting myself. My husband says kept asking me the questions of what's wrong? Is there anything I can help? And I just told him, no, I'm fine. And I grew up always shutting down your emotions anyways. And so when these emotions were overflowing, I did not know how to handle them. And so I finally was talking to my therapist one day and I told her I'm not okay. And she said, go talk to your doctor. And so I did. And he opened up the journey for me and explained everything that you're not alone in this. And I was grateful for those words of I'm not alone because I felt alone. I felt in this dark and dreary place. But it helped to know that I wasn't alone and to know that there's a way to help with this.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You bring up a important part too, is that, it can start before, right? Morgan kind of alluded that too. Can happen in other pregnancies, things like that too, but also just traumatic births or having experiences that during the birth can trigger postpartum depression as well. And 60 days in the hospital is a long time for sure. A long time for sure. So thank you for sharing your story, Tonalyn. Hannah, welcome. We'd love to hear your story and your journey with postpartum. When did you kind of notice something was off for you?
Um, for me, it was almost too late when I finally sat down and said something's wrong. I already had a history of anxiety and then depression. And I got married pretty young. Like I got married at 19. And then about 7 months after being married, I found out I was pregnant with my son. And I was excited, but I unfortunately had family who were not excited that I chose to get married and instead of going on a mission or going to school. Um, and so when I brought up, I'm like, I'm pregnant. I'm bringing the first grandbaby. And like my dad was supportive, but my mother was not.
Mm,
And so that was hard. And then there were other external factors that made the anxiety. And I wanted to make sure I was doing everything perfect
mm,
for this pregnancy because I didn't want to, I wanted to make sure that everything was fine.
yeah.
Um, the pregnancy, I had a rough pregnancy on mostly just like my son was fine. I was extremely sick. It didn't finally go away till closer to like halfway of the second trimester. We were in the middle of having to move, my husband having a career change, well, not career change, but being promoted, but not knowing where we're moving. And it was just a lot of stress. And I was like, I can do this. It'll be fine.
Mm,
And then my son wasn't born until 41 weeks because he just decided he didn't want to leave. And so he had to be forcibly kicked out, and he still didn't want to leave. And so so I was induced at like, what was it, like 6 a.m. And then he showed up. I finally, like, he was like out and born by like 11:33 p.m.
wow.
Um, and so rough labor and everything. And then I just remember we were driving home from the hospital, um, and I'm sitting with my son, and I'm just like, I just wanted to do everything right. And I just remember it was random. Like it was like a plastic bag was like on the freeway. And I just had this vivid, like, I thought that was my son for a moment. And I panicked. And then my son didn't want to sleep. So I was sleep deprived for months. And then I just kept getting like this, and then like this paranoia almost kind of set in, where it was like, this isn't your baby. Like they just kept coming in like this was a mistake. You are not his mother. His real mother will come out to the door at any moment. And by the way, you probably should call because what if you hurt him? What
Mm,
if like you're not really his mom? And my husband knew like something was up and he would ask like, everything okay? And like he was told like this is what to look for postpartum depression, but mine looked so different.
mm,
I remember coming home from church. He did stayed home. I did a meeting, but I kept having this thought like, your son's gonna get hurt. Your son's gonna get hurt. Your son's gonna get hurt. And I rushed home and I could hear the crying from outside the door. And my husband did the right thing. he had our son like safely like in like the bassinet, and he was doing some dishes. But then I remember just like looking at my husband, and this thought came of, if you leave your son alone with him again, he will kill him.
Mm.
And that was not true. But then I kept having this feeling of like failure, and everything was just getting rougher. And it wasn't until after I had to have gallbladder surgery, and I was sent home with some opioids, and I just didn't take them. But I remember one night I couldn't sleep, and I pulled out that bottle and just stared at it for hours, and thought like, I can just make this all go away. My husband deserves better. My son deserves better.
Mm.
And it wasn't until as the sun was coming up, my husband came out and asked if I was could see I was in distress. And I was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I need you to take that bottle and go hide it. Don't tell me where it is."
Mm.
And then after that, I had finally called my doctor and told her what happened. And she was like, "I'm glad you called me, but don't ever let it get this far again." Because I was dealing with this for 4 months of
Wow.
of that. And then that by that time she had me put on medication, so I was back on antidepressants, and then rushed me to and made sure I would go see a therapist.
Mm. I'm so glad that you reached out. I know that that is so hard, especially your first baby. You do want that, um, you feel that pressure, that responsibility, feeling that
Yeah.
perfectionism. A lot of things can play into that. And um, I'm so grateful that your husband knew and how to help and that you reached
Yeah.
out for that support and help. Um, maybe we'll kind of come back to you, Hannah. And do you want to
Yeah.
kind of expand on? So you reached out to your medical provider, right,
Mhm.
for a diagnosis. What was it like with treatment strategies? What do you feel like helped you the most in your recovery with postpartum depression?
Um, the best thing was like I really loved my doctor. She was very like she's very straightforward, and she she had a little bit of humor with it. I mean, she sat down and I was just like, I think I'm crazy, like this is going on. And she like I saw her genuine reactions. Like she was like, yeah, that's not a normal way of thinking, not to be like downplayed, but she was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, she was telling me like, this is serious.
Yeah.
You don't need to deal with this by yourself. And she was able to refer through. I was sadly put on a wait list because they didn't have the therapist at the time, but I very much am so grateful for like my grandmother, who was my biggest support. So she would take time. We would she still does this. She does the Sunday dinners, and that's what I still miss. But she would take the time to be like, "Are you okay?" Is and sit down, and we would just like we would come and help like make dinner, or she would make or if there were random times where she was free or if I were free, she would just say, "Let's go get lunch. Let's just talk." And she was a really calming presence.
Mm.
And then we had an amazing ward when we lived in Ogden, and they just became friends and let us know that like, hey, everyone like we understand the tired and wanting to do things right, and but they let me know I was not alone.
That. Do you feel like the thing that helped you the most was the support, the people that rally around you, your ward, your grandmother, and having them close was really helpful
Yeah.
strategy for you? Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. Morgan, do you want to kind of expand on your journey and talk a little bit about the treatment that you received and what do you feel like was the most helpful thing that you did in your recovery?
Yeah, so like with Hannah, I'm kind of the same. Like this wasn't my first rodeo with depression. Like I was diagnosed decades before I became a mom. Um, and luckily, because of my background in education, my educational background with social work, like I knew like there's resources out there. And so that really was very helpful to me because I knew when the breaking points were and I knew how to reach out and I'd had therapy before, but this was like a totally different kind of depression and rage. Like it was totally different. Um, so what I did is up to that point with some other health stuff. And then because I had three babies right in a row, my OBGYN was the one administering all my meds,
Mm.
which was fine. But for me, I was like, this, I need to see like a psychiatrist. Like I need someone that's more versed in like just knowing their stuff. And
Yeah.
so I networked with friends and found a really good one like Hannah that I really liked. For me, my brain works like I need to know the science behind it. Like, why is this working? Why is this not work? Like, and then once that clicked with me. And
Yeah.
I think I really just got fortunate in finding somebody that I clicked really well with. I also started doing EMDR therapy, and that has helped me a lot. It's really a really hard therapy to do, but it's very helpful. So I think just between those and then also like with Hannah, I had a really good support system. Um, we also have a great ward. Fortunately, I've been in wards that weren't so great and welcoming, or like you just didn't feel like you really fit in. And then I've had wards where I just feel like it's like the best blessing ever. A great family support system. And then I, at the time, was working somewhere where I worked with like 3 to 5, depending on the time of other moms.
Mm.
And so we all just kind of got it. And we
Yeah.
spent our whole days talking about stuff like this. So um, that was probably what helped me most was just the support system that you just really have to create. And it makes me sad knowing that there's women out there that don't have that.
Mm.
And I was thinking about that because I'm like, I don't want to go on and like preach like, oh, you got to have a good support system. Like people don't have great families. People don't have great wards. People don't have great friends. And I think for me, um, opening up about it to more people. Like I didn't even know my sister-in-law struggled with postpartum depression.
Mm.
Like I had no idea. And one day I was just like, let's just talk about it. And she's like, I struggled. I'm like, well, how did I not ever know? Like it's just once I started talking about it, I realized more and more people, and you just create this just this network of strength of other people that are going through it. And I don't know what it is, but like you just have someone else that's experiencing it. Like you just feel like there's so much weight. Like I'm not crazy. I didn't do anything wrong. It's just what my life is right now. Like it's going to get better. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
Thank
totally advocate for getting the right doctor and getting into therapy.
Yes. No, I love that. Like, I think sharing your story and being open invites other people to share their story, and
Mhm.
that can create that network of support and people feeling like, yeah, I was there too. Let me help you.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. And I like that you brought up EMDR. Another great one for trauma and postpartum is ART, accelerated
Hmm.
resolution therapy. It's very similar to EMDR, but like a short term, um, 6 or 8 sessions with that. But it is difficult. You have to
Hmm.
kind of talk through some of the trauma and do that, but it can be really, really healing for people. That's a
Yeah.
great treatment strategy. And medication is always so helpful, right? Like where your body is experiencing an imbalance of hormones, right? And chemicals. And sometimes we need that rebalancing, right? Just like sometimes we might have high blood pressure or high cholesterol or diabetes, like medications help balance out our body and doesn't mean there's anything wrong with us. We're not broken. It's just what our body might need in that moment. And it's really important to reach out for that support when we need it. So thank you, Morgan. Appreciate it. Tonalyn, do you want to talk a little bit about the treatment? I mean, you talked about kind of reaching out for support as well in therapy, but do you want to kind of expand on that?
Yeah, yeah. So, when I started noticing about my postpartum depression, I actually reached out to a girl I served my mission with. Her and I became close. We ended up being college roommates, and she had a baby. And I reached out to her and I said, "Are you struggling with postpartum depression?" And immediately she texted me and said, "No, I didn't, but my sister-in-law did. Let me reach out and I'll get back to you." And immediately in 15 minutes, she called me up and she said, "Hey, my sister-in-law gave me all the information." And this is what it looked like for her. So she shared her sister-in-law's story with me, the medications she started and everything. So I was super excited to know that even though she wasn't struggling with it, that I wasn't still alone with that. And so I ended up calling my doctor right then and there and got in as soon as I could. And I remember my doctor walking in and he sits down, just a super awesome guy. And he's like, "What's going on? What's happening?" And I said, "I'm not okay. Something's not right." And he said, "It's okay to not be okay. Let's get this taken care of. Let's take care of you." And I think those words were just powerful to me in that moment. Let's take care of you. Because then I realized that I do need to be taken care of. I do need to take care of myself. And I think becoming a first-time mom and having your baby in the NICU or just a mom in general, I realized that I push myself to the side. I have motherly duties and I forgot my own emotions. I forgot who I was in that moment, and I needed to remember who I was. And so he explained the whole process, and he goes, "Hey, it's not going to work the first time with some pills. It may work the first time, or we may have to up the dose or we may have to try something completely different, but just know there's options out there for you." And so we were able to start medication. I was excited, hoping it would, hit the hammer on the nail with the first go round, and it didn't.
Mm.
And I called up the nurse after a week with it, and I'm like, I'm not feeling anything different. And she said, "Okay, we're going to up the dose, get to the pharmacy right away. Let's get you taken care of." And just feeling like a top priority from them made me feel even more better. And talking with my therapist about it, she gave me some other tips as well that I try to implement. I'm not very good with it or anything, but I did try. And one of them is she says, first and foremost, try and get sufficient amount of sleep. It's hard as a first-time mom, but if call a friend, have them take the baby for a couple of hours in your home and you go take the nap, or as baby's sleeping, you sleeping, or ask the spouse to take the baby for the night so you can try and get uninterrupted sleep. And so I started implementing those more. And my husband's such a rock star. He's so awesome, was very good about it. We got into a routine. He took our little girl Emerson for a while and just really helped me out so much. And then the other thing she said was making sure you're eating a good nutrition amount of food. And she goes, we're in a great system in the church of Relief Society people coming and bringing us food. And my therapist is Buddhist, so she always talks highly of the church because she knows our Relief Society has it right. We know how to make food and give it to people. And so she says, reach out to your Relief Society president and get meals to you right away. And so my Relief Society was already on top of it, and my ministering sisters were helping me, and I was so greatly appreciated because McDonald's and Chick-fil-A can only go so far when you're traveling back and forth. And then the third thing that she told me was take time for yourself and set small goals, whether that's you're taking a shower for 30 minutes and you're focusing on yourself, or you stepped outside for 15 minutes to feel the sun on your face for a little bit. But she says, remember to feel and remind yourself that you're still a true person, that you're still a true individual, and that you really matter, and that who cares about the dirty house? Don't set the goal for the dirty house, set the goals for yourself and make it happen that day.
I love that. Those are awesome suggestions. Those are really good. I often make that suggestions like if you can get a 6 hour chunk of sleep, it might seem impossible with a newborn, but ask for help so you can get that. Lack of sleep can affect anything, like make anything worse, right? Like if we're having depression, it can make it worse. Anxiety, it can make it worse, right? Irritability, it can just intensify that. And so getting chunks of sleep, right? Not just like an hour here, an hour there, an hour to there, but just good solid sleep can make a huge difference. And I like that you brought up too that I wish it was this way, but depression medication is not an instantaneous medication. It's not something that we take and we feel that day, unfortunately. It's something that has to build up in our system, and it can take up to 2 weeks to even feel the effects of that medication. And it takes a full 6 weeks to feel the full effect of a medication. So the sooner you can get on a medication, the better. Like if you start feeling any amount of that postpartum depression, it's good to get on that. And I always recommend to my patients that if you're going to have postpartum depression, get on it before you have the baby, right? Get that into your system and start that beforehand. It can just help you feel more at ease also going into the birth and help with that as well. So thank you for sharing all those tips and tricks that are all amazing and super helpful. So thank you, Tonalyn. And actually, we'll have you kind of answer our next question, which is what do you wish someone had told you during your postpartum depression? Or what advice would you give new moms who think they might be struggling with postpartum depression but are afraid to speak up?
Yeah, so one thing that a lady actually told me she's family member. So during this whole crazy journey of having my daughter in the NICU and being hospitalized and everything, I actually lost a really dear friend to me who was like a father to me, and he was super awesome and just a go-getter. And I have these sweet text messages that I still read on a daily basis almost because of just the person he was. But when he passed away, I really struggled with it. And as I went to go see his family members and, celebrate his death basically because he was just so awesome and we had to be there for him. And she told me, and it was just so inspirational for me, and I think it applies to all of us, is just know you are on a journey with God right now. If your focus is needs to be on God and the journey that he has for you. And we may not have all the answers right now. We may not understand why we're going through this. We may feel like we're in a dark cave and we're just stuck in that dark cave, but just know that God's in that dark cave with you or wherever we are, and that He understands you. He understands what you're going through, and you just need to reach out to Him and express that to Him and just know that He loves you because He truly does. And you will see those ways. You will see how He loves you. You will see those answers coming through. But just remember, you're on a journey with God.
Mm.
And I truly love that. And I took that into heart. I hurried and wrote down what she said to me. And I was truly grateful for that because I still struggle with knowing that he died. I feel like I got robbed and not was unable to say goodbye to him. He died from cancer and everything. And it was just hard for me to understand that and still to comprehend with that. But I'm understanding each day a little bit more that my journey is with God. This is my plan of salvation. This is my plan with the Savior Jesus Christ there holding me up and helping me bear with this. And even though postpartum depression is hard and everything, I just know God needs me to go through this. He needs me to understand what difference it can make in my life and help me through it. And only God and I can understand why I need to do this. And I think it applies to everyone and everything. And something that I would say for individuals to help is don't hesitate to reach out. Always have an action behind. Don't think about it, just do it. And listen, cry with those who are struggling. Just do whatever you can because that matters most. And I feel that that's what she did when she explained all of this is she cried with me. We sat there for a moment in silence, just sobbing in tears as my daughter's in the NICU about 4 hours away from me and her telling me that God truly understands me. And I felt that through her is knowing that God does. And we just need to be that person for
Mhm.
others who are struggling.
I love that. I love that. And I love kind of thinking back to your story just a little bit ago, too. Like you reached out to a mission companion, and not that she had postpartum, but she knew somebody that did, right? Like you're not going to have to reach very far to find somebody who can help you with postpartum depression. Unfortunately, right? That it is so many people have experienced that and just speaking up, right? And talking about that. And I also love your thoughts about the Savior, right? These moments of opposition that we experience in this life are our opportunities to feel a deeper relationship with the Savior and to feel Him in our lives if we will reach out to Him and allow that to be the experience. So, thank you for sharing that testimony as well, Donalyn. Hannah, would you like to kind of share any thoughts that you have, advice you'd give a new mom who thinks she might be having postpartum depression, or what you wish someone would have told you during your postpartum depression journey?
Yeah. Like Talon said, I also she's still my best friend, even though she's still over in Utah. She's the unofficial official fairy godmother to my children. Um, and so on the times where I was still kind of having a rough time with being a first time mom and like losing and not having a lot of sleep and things like once she would just make sure I was doing okay, even if it was just simple. She would bring my favorite drink over, or she'd just come sit with me, watch a movie. Or when my son got older, she would um, do little sleepovers, and so she'd be like, "I'm gonna take him for the night," and I mean, with planning, she would take him for the night, and have like a day with him, and and she would also like send pictures of like, look, we got like Wendy's, and there he is like holding a little French fry, um, or having a chicken nugget because he thought it was like the best thing in the world. And I think the other thing is I was grateful for like the hospital showing like this is like some signs of postpartum depression, but they were so focused on like it's all like the sad part of it, or like you might like which is important, or they're like, or if you have like any type of thoughts of like hurting your baby, it what didn't really look like that for me. Mine was I was doubting my own self and doubting that my husband wanted this baby either. It just was that paranoia almost.
Mhm.
Um, and I wish that was more addressed, but just I would say so I would wish there was more of that type of awareness. Like it doesn't look the same for everyone. And also, even though you're busy and feel like garbage when you have a brand new baby, open the curtains, let some sunshine in. Don't let it be dark because it makes everything worse.
Mm.
So let some fresh air in, even if you have to like step outside for a couple minutes. One of the things that my best friend made sure is that we got out of the house.
Mm.
So even if I was like, but I don't feel like, she's like, let's just get out. We'll just wander a store. We don't have to do anything. Let's just walk. And so it was very helpful when she would make sure I got out of the house. And she was also, yeah, she made sure I ate. She made sure I got out of the house, and
Yeah. I
she's
love that.
amazing.
I love that. Yeah. And you bring up a really good point about it doesn't have to look like what we think it might look like to
Mhm.
be postpartum depression, right?
Yeah.
If something's off and feels like this isn't right, definitely reach out for support, right? That
Yeah.
it doesn't always look the same for everyone, for sure. There's
Yeah.
different aspects that are less talked about
Hmm.
when it comes to postpartum depression, for sure. And I love your friend. She sounds like she's amazing and knew exactly what to do. Those are amazing suggestions. And if anybody is listening, like just ask somebody to do those for you, or encourage your spouse or whoever to get you out of the house and just take 10 breaths outside. Or I love that. Open the curtains, get that sunlight. Those things are really helpful. And just walking too are really
Yeah.
helpful. So thank you, Hannah. Morgan, would you like to share any thoughts that you have for anybody who's listening, or things that you wish somebody would have told you when you were going through your journey?
Yeah, I think for me, one thing that I just would have really loved to hear is that it's not my fault.
Mm,
I put so much shame and guilt of like this is all my fault. Like, why can't I be a good mom right now? Like, why am I so angry at my kids? Like, they're so innocent, they're so little, they've done nothing wrong. But like I was having these just like rage, like I'm like I could just tense my body fill up. Like they would touch my skin and I would just crawl. I'm like, I don't want anybody by me. I don't want anybody looking at me. I don't
yeah,
want to hear anything.
yeah.
And I just it really went to a place of like shame. Like I just felt like so much shame. Like I'm a Utah mom. Like I should know how to do this and bake sourdough and do all these amazing things, and I'm failing. Like I just so for me, I just it would have been nice if someone just wrapped their arm around like it's not your fault. Like it is what it is, and this is the season of your life right now. It's not always going to be like this. So I think for me, that's what I would have liked to hear. My advice for any mom, honestly, whether you've struggled with postpartum, you're going into your first pregnancy, like proactive, like you just don't know what it might be like in the end. So just like a small story with that is I got very suicidal with our after our third, and to the point where I threw my hands up and I left. I went in my car. I was like, my goal was to drive off the cliff. Like that's where I was headed.
Mm.
Oh, sorry. Um, I was turning on this drive in this canyon where I kind of knew in my mind where I was going. I had turned my phone off. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I turned this corner where the barrier where I knew it was going to be, and somebody had graffitied on there, Jesus loves you. And it just stopped me in my tracks. And it was just like that little thing I just needed to remind myself, like, oh my gosh, I have been through some really hard things in the past, and he has had my back every single time.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, I am not advocating, because this was also an experience I had growing up. Like, I'm not advocating for like, oh, if you're struggling, you just need to pray more. You need to read your scriptures, go to church, be a better person. Like, that sometimes is not enough.
Yeah.
Like, you need the you need the mental health therapist, you need the medicines, you need
Yeah.
the support groups. But in that moment, I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, he has helped me so much in the past, and I know that he won't fail me. And that was enough for me to turn around. And turning around, I got home. Obviously, my husband was terrified, didn't know where I was. I wasn't answering my phone. He'd called the cops. I was like, what do I do? I found out that night there's actually an MCOT team that I
Mhm.
didn't know about, which I love. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget.
Yeah.
It's called the Mobile Crisis Outreach Team. So
Yeah.
they are a group of social workers, psychologists that will come to your home instead of the police to help you de-escalate, give you that therapy that you need in the moment, and then help you find resources in the community. And for me, that was amazing because they kept following up with me like every 2 days. They would call me like, how is it going? And one thing that one of them told me once, she's like, have you ever tried the suicide hotline? And I was like, no, like that's embarrassing. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, it's so weird. And she's like, when we get off our phone calls today, I want you to call them. I'm like, okay, but I don't feel suicidal today. Like, I'm okay right now in this moment. I'm okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, but that's the point. Call them when you're feeling okay. So you know what it feels like. Then that way, when you get to that point of crisis, you're like, okay, I've already done this before. It's not going to be scary and hard. So I think, again, it just kind of goes back to like, for me, being more proactive, like have things set in place, just like we would, like, why do we have like fire plans set in place? And like in school, like we did the earthquake drills and we did all these things. Like, hopefully we never need them.
Yeah.
But if you do, in that crisis moment, you've got everything set up. So that would be my biggest takeaway for all new moms. Like, I wish I could give every new mom like a little booklet of like, here's all the resources
Right.
that you
Yes.
need. And
Yeah.
don't be afraid to use them and
Yeah.
prepare for it just in case. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. And for sure, I think about 3 years ago, they even switched it. It's not called the suicide hotline anymore. It's called the mental health crisis line.
I
And
like
that
that.
is defined by your crisis is defined by the person calling. So you call, and if it's a crisis for you, it's a crisis for them on the other end, and they want to help you with it.
Mhm.
And they even switched it from a 1-800 number to a 988 number. So it's
Mhm.
supposed to be similar to 911, but it's the 911 for mental health. And even if you're not in crisis, they want you to call. I love that your therapist told you to do that because um, they also want to prevent crisis, right? So it's okay to call if you feel like, I don't know if I'm in crisis or it might get there, but I'm going to call and talk to somebody. They have a therapist on the other end of that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you can talk to a licensed therapist. And what you're describing, the MCOT team is fortunately, our legislation has designated mobile crisis outreach teams in every county in the state of Utah. I don't know if that is the same in every other state, but in Utah, it is. And when you call 988 and they feel like they need somebody with eyes and ears and boots on the ground to go in, they know the local resources and will call and have them come to your house and do that. So the best way to get to your MCOT team is call 988, and
Yeah.
they will decide and do all of the assessments and see what is needed, and they know all of your local resources. So thank you for bringing that up. I think that is something that everyone should know about. It is 988 for every state in the United States. So calling that will get you to your local number. I don't know them outside of the United States. So if you're listening to this, you're outside the United States, find out what they are. And especially if you like, if you're Relief Society presidency or ministering sisters, I think that's really an important thing to know and be able to do that. So thank you for sharing that, Morgan. Appreciate that. We'll come back to you, Morgan, for our last question too. We've talked a lot about people supporting others, and I think some people listening to this might not necessarily be going through postpartum depression, but they might be helping somebody going through postpartum depression, or maybe they're ministering to somebody and saying, this sounds like someone that I'm ministering to. What can I do to help? What would you say to someone listening to this who wants to help or support somebody? What's one thing that you feel like you want to tell them to do to support somebody else who's going through postpartum depression?
Yeah. Um, we kind of fall into this like habit of just like, how are you? I'm good. Like, what do you need? When you're in that deepness of it, your mind, okay, I can only speak for myself. My mind was so clouded. I didn't know which way to think. I didn't know what my next step was. And then for me, my husband always knows when I'm going into like an episode of depression is I get very indecisive and I cannot like focus.
Mm.
Um, a friend, she reached out and she's like, I know you're struggling because I was kind of open about it. Like I've been through enough stuff with my mental health that I want to be more open and the stigma around it, I didn't have a lot of support and I want to be that for someone else. So I was kind of open with it about a handful of people and she reached out one night and we're in Utah, so we go to all the like little fizz places, but she's like, hey, like after work, let's meet over at this place and let's just get a drink and let's just talk. And I was like, that sounds amazing. But I told her that morning. From that night, I'm like, my mood was totally different. Like, I don't want to go. I don't want to get out. Like, I'm in that, I can feel it. Like, I was in that crazy mindset. And what did it for me was she was like, hey, well, if you don't meet me, I'm coming to get you. So kind of like what Hannah's friend did. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't come, I'm picking you up. And I was like, oh, I don't want her to see my house right now. It's a mess. So I met her there. And I think for me, and I've had this happen a lot of times with ministering and with my own family, like the question of what can I do, I it wasn't helpful for me because I don't even know. I don't even know what I need.
Mhm.
If I would, and I would always think if I knew what I need, then I wouldn't be asking. Like, so for me, I just need people to just do. Like my mom, she'd come over and she just clean the house. She'd just show up. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Like at first it's kind of like, I don't know, like my house is a mess. And I felt weird like laying down and taking a nap, knowing somebody else is doing all my things that I felt like I was supposed to be doing as a mom.
Yeah.
So that helped. Like people just coming, like don't ask how we can help, just do it.
Love that.
Was really helpful for me. And it might feel awkward us being the one doing it for someone else. I don't know. It feels a little
Yeah.
awkward, but I think once
Yeah.
you do it a few times for someone else, it just doesn't feel so weird.
Yeah.
The other thing with me is I would feel like a lot of guilt ever having my kids with someone else. And I get a lot of anxiety having my kids with other people. So it was nice when they would come to my home so that I knew where
Yeah.
my kids were. I could be in my bed. And then I'm not like having to get kids up, take them to someone else's house for babysitting. Like everything was just here. And then it was
Mhm.
also, I loved when my friend would take pictures like of my kids doing the fun things with them because then I felt like, oh, I can see they're having a great time. And I always felt like, oh, my kids are gonna think mom failed me. She's not here. Where's my mom? And they always had so much fun. Like they never, I bet it never even crossed their mind that mom's upstairs taking nap. How dare she?
Right.
And I
Like, yay,
and
I get to
I think
go
that
out.
leads, yeah, I think that leads me to my last thing is I put it kind of out there on my social media, like, hey, I'm doing this podcast. Like, what would you guys recommend? And I had one friend reach out and she said sleep is the biggest thing. And she didn't even say like sleep is helpful for the mom. She said sleep is the number one way to protect a mother.
Mm.
So I think if you have a chance to go sit with your ministering sisters and just let them sleep and just do a little laundry and just be there with their baby so they can get sleep, I think it feels so much different when you got to let your mind rest and turn off for a minute.
Huge. It's huge. Those are awesome suggestions. Thank you so much for sharing those. Tonalyn, what would you like to say to women who want to support others?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Everything that she just said was just go and do basically come to the house and just help. Maybe show up and just say, I'm gonna clean your bathroom today or something like just do anything and help out in any way. And I'm the same way. I don't want to be asked what can I do to help? Just kind of like when my husband was trying to help me, he goes, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And I'm like, these are questions not to ask me right now. Um, but just go and do, basically. Just come support me by just showing up. And so just doing that for others is a great way of doing that as well. And helping them. And I'm the type of person that if you bring my favorite treat, I'm gonna love you forever. And so just show up and bring someone their favorite treat if all else fails, or a meal or something.
Yeah.
There's great ideas out there to help someone who can use it and just being there to support them through it.
Love it. I love it. Awesome. Thank you. Hannah, do you want to share any thoughts?
Yeah. This came to mind before, like long before we had moved here. Um, at the at our old ward. I had remembered they were an older couple, but their kids had ranged from like teenage to babies. And I remember they were I remember one of them was talking to me. They're like, "Oh, it's like the newborn ba-, like because our son was a little older. They're like, oh, it's like the newborn stage your favorite." And I was like, "Well, I like the baby stage." They're like, "Hey, it's okay to like the newborn stage better than the 6-month-old stage, and then like toddlers." They're like, "You're gonna learn that some stages are not for you. That does not mean you're a bad mom." And after I learned quickly that I was like, I struggled during the toddler age because they're more mobile and can get into stuff. And so one of the things, and now that my kids are in school, is I've tried to just be the person that listens and like bring the treat, or I've tried to make sure not to be like, oh, well, everyone feels like that sometimes because then it downplays the the feeling because like I family members I knew meant well, but that was because like learning like because I have a daughter with autism and having to do all that research and things like I got diagnosed with ADHD at 23 when she was about um 3 months old, I
Yeah.
think. And then I was like, well, that explained a few things. And so I have just tried to remember that everyone's experiences are different and just tried to be the calming presence. And I'm sorry if I'm like going on a tangent, but there's this book I've really loved. It's a little picture book called The Rabbit Listened.
Hmm.
And it is my favorite little picture book. And basically, it's about a little boy who he built a big tower, and the tower then gets just knocked over. And he's sad and he's just kind of sitting there, and all these different animals come by trying to fix it. And like so like the bear, for example, is like, oh, if we just get angry about it and then we'll feel better. But the boy doesn't really want to do that. Or if the kangaroo comes by and like, if we just push it aside and put it away and don't think about it, then we'll be fine. Or like the snake comes by and is like, what would make you feel better if we destroyed someone else's
Hmm.
tower? And then after these animals try and the little boy's still not feeling better, the rabbit comes quietly and just sits there. Doesn't say anything, but just waits for the boy to feel ready. And the rabbit, after a little bit, the boy tells the rabbit all that he's feeling and how he wants to, um, all the plans, like, and all the feelings and everything. And at the end of it, the boy feels ready to build his tower again. And the rabbit keeps listening and is ready to help him when he's ready. And so I try to keep it in my mind, be the rabbit
Hmm.
for someone. Um, and so sometimes when I don't know what to do, I just take a breath and think, be the rabbit.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That sounds like a beautiful book. We should hand that out as ministry gifts to everybody.
It's
That
a
would be,
beautiful,
that
beautiful
sounds
book.
that sounds amazing. And I think it's so true. I think we discount the power of listening and how much that can really help somebody, right? That if we don't know what to do or we can't show up in the way that we want to show up, we can just listen. And that's powerful. That's power. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, each of you, for being vulnerable, sharing your stories. I think this episode's really going to help a lot of women not feel so alone and find the resources that they need, and other women to help people who are going through that. So I appreciate everything that you guys said and your stories, and I'm so excited for people to listen to this. Thank you for listening to the LDS Mental Health Podcast. I hope you were able to find ways of healing, guidance, and peace. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend who would love to start thinking in a higher and holier way as well. Or hit that follow button so you don't miss out on any episodes. Also, check out the links in my show notes for other episodes you might like and links for other mental health resources on my website.